Now that's a good question! Welcome back to our next video of Good Questions. Well, back on track. Let's get back to the Good Question book. And our next question comes from Aaron. Aaron asked, who was the first person to come up with the displacement method? Now, the displacement method, for those of you that may not know, is a technique used by scientists to determine the volume of irregularly shaped objects. Today in the laboratory, we can put objects like minerals or other things into a graduated cylinder or beaker and see how much the water is displaced, and it is exactly the same volume as that irregularly shaped object. But Aaron's question is asking, well, who was the first person to come up with that displacement method? Well, as you can see, I like books in addition to ducks. And I've got one book here on the shelf called The Timelines of Science. And way back in the beginning of the book, it tells the story of the first person to come up with the displacement method. And I just want to summarize this story with you, but I need a visual aid to help me. So I'm going to draw from my other collection, which I have, of games. And I have one game, some of you might recognize this. It's from a game called Pretty Pretty Princess. And years ago, I used to play with this game with my daughters, who were young at the time, and the object was to become a pretty, pretty princess. And the ultimate goal was to win the crown so that you could win the game. So this crown is part of our story today of the first person to come up with the displacement method. You see, back in ancient Greece, there was a great philosopher by the name of Archimedes. And Archimedes was known as a brilliant individual all across town, in fact, all across the country. People would come to him to solve their mysteries of science. Well, one day, the king that ruled over the area that Archimedes lived gave a lump of coal to the goldsmith, to the metalsmith in town, and wanted them to make a crown using all of the gold in the crown. Well, the king didn't quite fully trust this metalsmith, and so when the crown was received by the king, well, did like the workmanship, was impressed with how it was made, and certainly wanted to proudly wear the crown, but he was distrustful that the metalsmith may have saved some of the gold for himself and maybe used another metal in addition to the gold in the crown. And so he thought, well, I like how the crown is suiting my head. I don't want to destroy the crown. So he went to Archimedes and he said, hey, listen, Archie. I don't know. He may have had a nickname for him. Hey, Archie, I need you to solve this riddle for me. I've got this crown. I gave the metalsmith a certain amount of gold. I want you to come up with a way to prove or disprove that he used all of the gold that I gave him, but you can't destroy the crown. Now, that was a big challenge for Archimedes. So the king went back to his palace and gave Archimedes the crown. And so, Archimedes went back to his house. And as many ancient Greek philosophers did at that time, he went into his spa, this warm bathtub. And as he sat in the tub, actually as he got into the tub, he realized something very important. He realized that as he got into the tub, which was filled to the brim with water, a certain amount of water came out of the tub. And with Archimedes' brilliant mind, he deduced that the volume of the water that came out of the tub was exactly the same as the volume that his body submersed in the water was. And knowing something about the relationship between mass, volume, and density of different substances like gold, he knew that density equals mass divided by volume. You don't have to worry about the math of it. But the point is, he came up with this brilliant idea of how he could test the crown to see if it was made totally of gold or not. He was so excited. He burst out, Eureka! Was so excited because he found the solution to the problem. He got out of the bath, ran down the street, went to the palace, told the king about his idea, not even realizing that he never put his bathrobe on. So the whole town developed these stories about not only the word Eureka coming up with an idea, but also the world's first streaker, you might say. So an interesting tie-in to Aaron's question about the first one that come up with the displacement method. It was Archimedes, ancient Greece, Eureka, and the crown. Now, I won't tell you the rest of the story because the penalty for thievery in those days was beheading by the king. So you'll have to do some research in scientific history yourself to see whether the metalsmith was truly honest or not. And so next time, bye-bye.